Hello, welcome to this presentation. People can learn about organizations through their policies, databases, reports, and other published documents. Such documents represent the organization's explicit knowledge, the one which is obvious to everyone. However, most scholars contend that explicit knowledge represents only a small portion of an organization's knowledge. This then raises questions about the behind the scenes, or in fact, the beyond the visible and reported knowledge. For example, published documents don't fully describe members' beliefs and values and how these change over time as members interact with and within organizations. They don't tell much about organizations' routines and common culture. In other words, they don't fully reflect tacit knowledge. This presentation draws on knowledge management literature to discuss different aspects of tacit knowledge. Though the main focus is on tacit knowledge, I found it useful to situate it in a general framework of organizational knowledge. So I present organizational knowledge on a continuum, then I use the iceberg model to delineate tacit knowledge, then come types and importance of tacit knowledge for an organization. Finally, I will discuss issues and opportunities involved in acquisition and diffusion of tacit knowledge before a summarizing model of tacit knowledge. Different authors define tacit knowledge in different ways. The definitions provided here suggest that we should look at tacit knowledge from two different angles, that is, the individual and collective points of view. Probably, tacit knowledge is better understood in relation to explicit knowledge. Donak and Tahoma in 2009 claimed that both types of knowledge exist on a continuum whereby each may smoothly move along the continuum from one extreme to another. For example, from a try and error process and experiences, a lecturer may come up with a better way of providing timely and constructive feedback in large classes. In a way, this represents the lecturer's tacit knowledge. In order to share this new knowledge, the lecturer will need to make it more explicit. Hence, he or she may need to write a paper about it and seek colleagues' feedback on the draft before publication and communication to department, faculty, or university levels, or even to the whole academia. An alternative way of representing organizational knowledge is through the iceberg. As suggested by Hardin Helgard in 2000, the iceberg model highlights the importance of tacit knowledge. The floating and smallest part represent explicit knowledge, while tacit knowledge is represented by the immersed part of the iceberg. Hence, terms such as the hidden, the unseen, the unspoken, the unspeakable, or the taken for granted used in the literature to describe tacit knowledge. So, to understand an organization's shared culture, language, or routines, one should get immersed in the daily routines and habits of the organization. As for the types of tacit knowledge, two classifications have been provided. In 2007, Collins distinguished between somatic limit tacit knowledge and collective tacit knowledge. Somatic limit tacit knowledge has to do with the limited capacity of human brain, which makes it impossible to articulate each aspect of human knowledge and behavior. For him, this aspect of tacit knowledge is so complex that it can be grasped only through guided instruction in a social group. One example is swimming. Indeed, one cannot exactly identify and practice every single step involved in expert swimming so as to reproduce it. Definitely, if not shared, this type may lead to the downsizing of knowledge associated with staff turnover or retirement. Collective tacit knowledge has to do with things like routines and shared language. It is a property of an organization, a bit like what DNA is for a human body. For example, the winning behavior of a specific soccer team requires players to abide with some collective rules, routines, and automatisms of the team. Lamb in 2000 recapped four types of knowledge suggested by Collins in 1993, namely embodied knowledge, imprinted knowledge, encoded knowledge, and embedded knowledge. Embodied knowledge and embedded knowledge similar to Collins' 2007 cognitive limit tacit knowledge and collective tacit knowledge respectively. Now comes another important question. Why does tacit knowledge matter? Well, apart from occupying the greatest part of an organization's knowledge, tacit knowledge does matter for other good reasons. First, considering tacit knowledge is recognition that people may know more than they can tell, as suggested by Polanyi in 1966. So, It's an opportunity for people to explore and exploit their practical consciousness for the benefit of the organization. Also, as it can be read in Anaka Sesi model, tacit knowledge is an important base for explicit knowledge. This idea was reiterated by Lamb in 2000. Stover in 2004 went further to observe that tacit knowledge makes it easier for the knower to find solutions to problems in a more automatic way. From the collective tacit knowledge point of view, I would add that Stover's observation would even apply to the whole organization as in the case of mutual adjustment. Finally, since it's hard to imitate, tacit knowledge is essential for the sustained competitive advantage of the organization. Yet, based on the assumption that tacit knowledge is deeply incorporated in individuals' behaviors, it can prove hard to unlearn if this unlearning process is required to develop a new product, as Lawson and Lawrence claimed in 1999. According to Haldane Haggard, two different views come into play when it comes to the acquisition and diffusion of tacit knowledge. Some scholars argue that it should be codified or made explicit in the first place. This view is best highlighted in Sesi model, where knowledge is continuously created through four processes: socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization. Other scholars like Oley 2008 ruled out the possibility and practicability of such codification. Others like Grant 1997 and Polanyi 1966 warned against the damaging effect of such codification on organizations' overall knowledge. They claim that codification can lead to the loss of knowledge. Haldane Haggard went on to suggest two conditions for the diffusion of tacit knowledge. First, the knower has to be aware of his or her tacit knowledge and find ways to express it. Second, the knower must be free and committed to share the knowledge, otherwise it remains hidden. Finally, as Deboisky 2006 claimed, the rest of the organization must be actively engaged with the knower through different ways as discussed right away. The suggested means are interactions and communities of practice. These means employ practices such as hands-on experiences and apprenticeship. They all involve different ways of interacting with the knowledge holder. For instance, in professional firms, consultants transmit problem-solving skills to firm's members while interacting with them on a regular basis. On the other hand, tacit knowledge diffusion faces a number of barriers as suggested by Haldane Haggard 2000. About language and perceptions, tacit knowledge is usually held in a non-verbal form, and it seems natural and obvious and thus hard to articulate for most people. Another problem will be finding appropriate language to share tacit knowledge with novices when internalized knowledge is expressed in jargons. Also, the internalization of knowledge requires time for both the individual and the organization, but it may be hard given the busy and speedy nature of today's workforce. Likewise, distance makes it hard for frequent face-to-face interactions, especially in today's dispersed organizations. Finally, valuable tacit knowledge in one organization may not be valued in another. Besides, these barriers may be crucial for the preservation of the organization's competitive advantage since they make tacit knowledge hard to copy. This figure summarizes the way both collective and individual tacit knowledge contribute to the automatic solutions, organization's uniqueness, and competitive advantage.